that I not only help people create their best lives and become high performers and exceed expectations and be wildly successful, but I actually do it myself.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so amazing, and the I'm not gonna say brutal in a bad sense, but the honesty that you have when you post your videos and when you make your posts that aren't videos, to me, kind of touch a person deep inside. Because when I would think when you're working with a high performance coach or working with any coach for that matter, um, when you have that sort of honesty, right? When you're willing to bear it all out there, it's got to, it at least gives me confidence that's a person that I want to work with.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment and the really kind lead in. It is important that if you want to be a high performer and excel and reach your highest level of potential and possibility, that you have to conquer your fears and you have to excavate those limiting beliefs. And it does start with yourself. I can't be a successful coach if I'm stuck in my head and dealing with my own issues. So before I get on a call and have a session with a client, it's important that I check in with myself. That doesn't mean I'm perfect at all, right? But what I'm sharing with you all is my process. This is what I go through. This is what my clients are going through. This is what I'm seeing in the world. And maybe it will resonate with you too. And perhaps by me living my life and leading by example, it will also help you and empower you to be your best self.
Yeah, that's amazing. So talk a little bit about what it means or what you mean. What is the Julie version of high performance?
For me, high performance means living your absolute best life, where your career, relationships, health, and finances are all optimized. So you really are thriving as a whole person. Because a lot of people can achieve success in one or two areas of their lives. But the question is that really living your best life? If you're highly successful in business, but your relationships are failing, is that really your best life? Right? Or vice versa. If your relationships are great and your health is great, but you don't have the financial means to keep your life going, that's going to create stress and turmoil. So it's really about taking your life and examining those areas of career, relationships, health, and finance to determine where you're functioning at your optimal levels and where you aren't. And then from there, creating a strategic plan to ascend.
Mm-hmm. Now, so when you're talking about ascending, right, which is great, and thriving, which are words that I love to choose, walk us through a little bit about what that means, right? Or some of the things some of the challenges that you've come across, or some of the ways that you've helped some of your clients.
Great question. And very few people ask me this. And it's so important because in the end, it's not about me at all. It's about my clients. Like right now, one of my clients just achieved his annual goals and we still have a whole nother quarter to go, right? And so he is amped up. He's exceeding all of these expectations and it's amazing. Another one of my clients is in corporate real estate and just signed his biggest deal ever. So like those are the wins, right? Another one of my clients is reconnecting with his wife. And after 30 plus years of marriage, they're coming back together and prioritizing each other. And it's so beautiful to see. So it's very different, high performance coaching, although I do have a curriculum for my training with High Performance Institute, it really is individualized when I work with one-on-one clients. I also do leadership development and corporate coaching, so we can talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with one-on-one clients, it really is a matter of starting out with clarity, about being real and raw about where you are right now, examining your career and are you thriving and are you challenged? Are you motivated to get up every day and say, yes, I love my job. I want to be here. I want to accomplish these tasks. And then in your relationships, like with your one-on-one relationships, are they growth-based friendships? Is it love if it's an intimate relationship? Are you keeping like your fire ignited? Or have you let some of that go and you need to amp that up? And then looking at your health, like, have you sacrificed your health for your career?
Yeah.
A lot of people have, right? But are you truly thriving if you get to 2 p.m. or like right now and you actually do need that second cup of coffee? Why is that?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on with your health, with the food you're taking in, with your exercise regime, with your sleep, that you need that caffeine boost. So it's looking at all of that. And then what I do differently than other high performance coaches, at least that were trained in my genre, is that I added in finance, because it used to be career, relationships, emotions, and health. But what I found is basically then I'm just a dream merchant. If all I'm doing is helping people create clarity and like develop this path for success, but their financial situation is not aligned, then they're going to get there and say, well, now I'm ready to retire. Now I'm ready for that dream life in Hawaii that we envisioned, Julie, but I can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not a financial planner. I don't profess to be. I'm not a jack of all trades. But what I do with that is I help my clients examine their finances. And then if I need to, I direct them to the right person to help them with that.
Yeah, it takes a team, right? So you
Yeah.
have all these connections that you bring together.
Yeah, and that's true with some of my other clients who maybe need a psychologist. You know, I am a high performance coach, and so when I start working with people, we definitely recognize that sometimes they need additional support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the one part that that not the one part, but that is one of the parts that I really enjoy when I follow you and read your post and see what you're talking about, is that you have a good way of empathizing with others, right? I think that's really important when you're talking about being a high performance coach, right? Or engaging with a high performance coach, is having that empathy, right?
Yeah, empathy is such an interesting concept, and EQ and compassion and all of those things, because it's considered a soft skill. But if you don't have that soft skill, you're going to constantly be hitting a wall. You will never fully be your best self if you can't generate that empathy, that compassion for other people. And you know, for me, I developed it the hard way. I developed it because I needed it. And I went through a lot of challenges from childhood to my former marriage that, tough love is how my mom called it. I don't know if it's tough love when it gets to the point of physical and emotional abuse, which is a whole nother topic. But throughout my childhood, there were challenges, and my mother was very, very hard on me. And then I got into an emotionally abusive marriage. And so through all of that, I went through a lot of challenging times where I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel taken care of. I didn't feel supported. And what I see in the world today is a lot of that. Whether you're wildly successful or you're struggling, there's a lot of isolation, especially during the pandemic, where people feel they're alone, right? Where they feel like they're not understood. And the truth is, no one's alone. Nobody that has cancer is the only person with cancer. No one in an abusive relationship is the only one in that. But we can't connect with people, and they can't meet us where we are and help us, you know, address our needs if we are afraid to share it. And that's been one of the hurdles that I've had to face, is conquering my fears of putting myself out there, because I'm very sensitive, right? And when you become your brand and suddenly you're out there and there are haters and people will comment on things that are completely irrelevant to my message, right? They comment on my hair, my clothes, my makeup, my shiny skin that I always have. Like, I'm well aware of those things, and that's not the point, right? The point of me being here is to help people awaken to the present moment, to see what I didn't see in my life when I was sleepwalking through my life because I was numb. I was in so much pain, I just shut down. So I woke up, and it helped me change my life. So one of my missions is to help people awaken. And then from there, empower them to be their best selves. And we need tools for that journey.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't get in a, well, some people get in a car and just go, but usually if you're planning a trip, you get a map, right? You map it out. You look at the GPS, you look at an online atlas now. You don't really have the old school atlases anymore.
Yeah.
But you create a plan, a roadmap. But people don't do that in their lives. They just show up. You know, they go through, they get their degree, they get their job, and it's rinse and repeat, going through the motions like a hamster on a wheel. And then one day, something catastrophic happens. Usually it's an illness, a divorce, a death. And it wakes people up, and then there's all this regret.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my missions is to help people awaken to the now so they don't get to that point and have regret. I always say I'd rather get to the end of my life and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that, instead of saying, I wish I would have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. You brought up a couple of things in there, and one thing that I really wanted to ask you about. So when you post your videos or when you post your images, you know, I've noticed some of the comments are wholly inappropriate, right? How do you deal with those? Really, I mean, like, so Rachel Beck and I have had this conversation on her show and on my show together before, and just how there is no room for that type of behavior on LinkedIn, yet it's still there, yet it's still prevalent. How are you best dealing with that, or what's your suggestion for other women that are doing similar types of posts where they're getting raw out there and they're posting about, you got Krista Moline, right? That does similar stuff like you do. Not she doesn't do what you do, but her posts are very, open and raw. Annie Lieb, open and raw type of posts. I've known other females on LinkedIn that would give these open and raw types of posts that are no longer on LinkedIn anymore because they couldn't deal with the idiot comments that are out there. How do you deal with something like that?
I will say, I'll start by saying I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where the most respectful people are. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm on LinkedIn. Instagram is not my demographic. And also it's all picture based, and it's very, there's so much photoshopping. There's so much fakeness in there. It's a whole nother deal. Although my daughter loves it. And for like her just having fun and hanging out with her friends, great place, but it's not for me. My mentor actually really pushed Facebook, but I had a terrible time on Facebook. I would run Facebook ads and it would all be sexual. It would all be harassment. I never got a client through that. It didn't work for me. So I would say at this point on LinkedIn, I have minimized that as much as I can. I used to get more of it, and I had to look at my messaging. I had to look at what I was putting out there. Mm-hmm. Why I decided to humanize myself. So there's this thing called otherizing, where it's like, oh, that's someone else's problem. Or that person is like an object, not a human. Mm-hmm. So that's when I talked to my kids and said, hey, I want to share a little bit more about our family. I want to share a little bit more about me being a single mother. Not because it is relevant to who I am as my brand, but it's not really something I message about a lot. Mm-hmm. But I did that very purposefully and intentionally to show like, hey, people, I'm a human here with 3 children working hard to grow my business because I have crazy amounts of expenses, right? Like my daughter, I'm moving her to NYU next week, and her father doesn't want to meet me on paying for that. So like that's big on my plate. And I have another one that I have 5 years left with. My older son is in college as well. Like I am here for legitimate reasons. I'm not here to hang out and to be like your pinup person. I'm way too old for that. That's silly. So I used to get a lot of that. As I shifted some of the way I present myself, I attract less of it. I typically just delete the messages if people put it on there.
Awesome.
Sometimes though, I also have to check in with myself. Are they being harassing, or are they simply giving me a compliment? If they're saying like, hey, love your earrings today, or like, that's really not harassment. So you also have to check in with that. Most of the harassment comes in DMs. And on the DMs, I ignore, I delete. If they're really harassing, I will block and report.
Perfect. Good for you.
What I do have an issue with is there have been some things that I find very offensive that LinkedIn says doesn't violate them.
I've seen that too. Yes. Yeah.
Last week, a man was brutal. He was dogging a lot of my posts. I guess he had just discovered me and was doing all this. I was deleting them. And then he full on said, stop bleeding all over LinkedIn. And I was like, oh boy. I was like, okay, come on, LinkedIn. Like, how can you not? Because I kept reporting and LinkedIn kept coming back, not offensive, not offensive. I'm like, that is offensive on so many levels.
Right. Yeah.
It's offensive talking about my emotions. It's offensive because it basically refers to a woman and her cycle. Right. It's just bad. It was just horrible. So I do think LinkedIn can do a better job with, if we're offended and we report it as offensive, like taking a little more time, not just pinning it through some little algorithm and saying, oh, it doesn't have any of these keywords. Like, that man was trolling me. It upset me. It upset me to the point I reported it. Now, I do know some people are going to report everything because people are easily offended, but I don't. And so if I took time to report something that was truly offensive, I wish they would have not dismissed it.
Yeah, that should be investigated, and it should be done more, because I know with all my female connections that I've had conversations with, either on Coffee with Bob or just direct conversations with, they all say the same thing. They're constantly hit, mostly in DMs. You are right, mostly in DMs, but even on the post itself, and it is a growing problem. Jonathan McDonald just posted who I love, just posted a link to a group that he started to stamp out bad behavior, right? Actually, my cousin's daughter is watching us right now, Kyla, and she's yes, we are human, because I know she is very much into women's rights and stuff like that. Right. So
as is my daughter, and she actually talks to me a lot about that. Like, Mom, this is not okay. And she'll watch. She's on LinkedIn as well. And, I think the younger generation is having such a great impact here.
Yes.
Because my generation really was raised. I was raised personally to be very submissive.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone says something to you, you say thank you and you go on and you just put up with it, right? You tolerate it. I was raised to tolerate things. And this younger generation, which my daughter is part of, and I'm so proud, they are not. They're saying, hey, this is not okay, and we need to change. And I really believe things are changing for the positive.
They are,
yes. I want to shout out to like all of my followers. Awesome people, amazing people. Truly, I used to be to the point where like 95% of my incoming DMs were misogynistic, terrible, like hitting on me, sexual harassment. And that's really gone down. I've been very careful about who I connect with, but I'm really grateful for the respectful, amazing men out there who don't do that.
Right. Yeah, that is awesome, and I'm very glad for that too, because I do see it shifting in the world as a whole, which is amazing. Because I have a daughter of the younger generation. She's married and all that stuff, but they don't put up with that stuff, and I'm so glad. I mean, that's so glad. So I want to circle back now. Now we've gone through that. I want to circle back now. You talked about corporate coaching.
Yes.
Right. So, and that's new to me, because I've always seen you as a one-to-one coach. So talk a little bit about your corporate coaching.
So corporate coaching, interestingly enough, I started out with corporate coaching and individual, and the individual just seems more applicable to LinkedIn. I do some posts on leadership development, effective communication, some of the things that I coach through with it's high performance coaching and creating high performance cultures. Basically, it's very similar to what we talked about with individuals, except you're creating a whole culture of that, a whole culture of people who are aligned, right? Who are aligned in their career, their relationships are thriving, their health is thriving, their finances are abundant. Like, that's what we truly want. And because if we take care of the whole person, they're going to stay, they're going to be loyal, and then our business is going to thrive. So it's really about taking your team, whether it's your leadership team or your entire company, and getting everyone on the same page, aligned and congruent with the mission of the company, and creating that energy, right? Of like, here we are, here's what we stand for, and here's where we're going.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, and even in this day and age, there's still a lot of very toxic corporate cultures, right? So when you come across someone who comes to you and says, Julie, we really are in a toxic culture, we need your help, right? What is your best approach in that case? Because I'll tell you, toxic, and I was part of a toxic culture. I actually had to leave the organization because I couldn't take it anymore.
A lot of people do that, and it's very unfortunate. And we're seeing that right now. We're seeing this backlash against toxic cultures and this need for high performance culture. And the problem with the word high performance is it gives people this idea that I'm going to make people hustle and grind and push and work longer hours. And that's not true at all, because with high performance productivity, you're more efficient and effective. It actually shows, like with high performance habits that I teach, you can increase your productivity by 30%, which means you have more time to either work on new projects or more time to go out there and live your life, right? Go hiking, spend time with your family, get on the golf course. So what I do with people is typically I start with the executive team. I still am old school in believing it's trickle down. Right? You as a leader need to be someone worthy of emulating. You lead by example. And that's what we talked about at the beginning, right? The way that I'm showing up on LinkedIn. So I like to work with the executive team. And then from there are a few things. Basically, we get in there and we look at the mission of the company and the vision of the company. What are the goals? From there, how are we going to accomplish these goals? Is everyone on the team aligned with that? Are their unique abilities being utilized? Which is really important, because oftentimes we have people in positions that they just got put in because that's what was available, but that's not where they should be. And so it is really taking that time at an executive level, and then it goes down, right, to all of the other teams, depending on how big or small your company is. It's looking at each person, and are they where their unique qualifications have them? Like, is that their strength? Is that where they belong? And if not, where can we shift them? And then it's looking at the jobs everyone does. Like, what do you need to do? What should you be doing? And what are you doing? Because a lot of times we have executives doing $10 an hour jobs. They're shuffling paperwork. It's absurd. Or I have CEOs that spend like 30, 40 hours a week on phone calls. They're just listening to these phone calls. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? They need somebody from the team to report to them. They don't need to be sitting on all those calls. There are better things they could be doing, like engaging with their teams, right? Being out on the floor with their employees, depending on what kind of company it is. So there are so many things. But really, what I like to do, I go to the executive team, and it's about 6 things. It's called the E6 Leadership Framework. It's envision, enlist, embody, empower, evaluate, and encourage. So it all starts with the vision of the company. What do you want to create? What kind of people are working for the company? What are their lives like? So it's not just about the vision, like being a Fortune 500 company or a Fortune 50 company. It's beyond that. It's greater than that. In our company, this is what Google has done so well, right? In our company, it's not just about us being successful. We recognize when our employees are thriving in their lives, they're more creative, they're more innovative, and now they're thriving, which helps our company grow. It all goes hand in hand, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
so the vision is there. When the executive team comes up with this vision, the next job is to enlist the employees, enlist the people in that vision. And how can we collaborate? Because people support what they create.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to bring people in. And this is what stresses executives. Not everyone's going to be on board.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And some people will need to leave. Now, you shouldn't fire them. Don't just, some people are like, oh, they don't belong, let's fire them. Give them a chance, but they'll recognize, and typically they'll take themselves out of the game.
Right. Yeah.
They'll say,
Yeah.
I'm not aligned with the new vision. Or you'll see their work slacking, right? And
Yeah.
you'll have to have that difficult conversation. This is not a bad thing. We're so afraid of this for some reason, but it's not a bad thing. You want to enlist people. You want to make sure everyone on your team is aligned with the vision of the company.
Yeah. Well, a good, healthy team makes a good, healthy company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if they aren't, some shuffling will have to occur, but it's okay. And then this leadership team has to embody this vision, this mission. They embody it. And when they embody it, again, you're leading by example. So now the people that have been working with you for 5 years are like, wow, Bob, you're different. I love this energy that you're generating for our company. Thank you. And it's going to have ripple effects.
Yes, absolutely.
So from there, you want to empower your team. That's when you give them autonomy. That's when you say, I trust that you are going to do your best. I trust that we have you in the best position. And now I'm going to give you decision-making authority. I'm going to trust you to succeed. And when we empower our employees in that way, again, we're creating this culture of success and achievement because everyone's thriving, everyone feels good, everyone's empowered. And then from there, you evaluate it.
Yeah.
You look at things, how's it going? You always have to evaluate. The companies that wait for like a mid-year and an end-of-year review, that blows my mind.
You're going to miss stuff.
Right. You're going to miss stuff. You want to live in that constant state. Like you want to be able to be agile and adapt and be in a meeting and say, hey, this isn't working. Let's change it. You don't let things go. I don't know why people do it this way, but they do. They let it go. They're like, okay, they're taking notes. They're putting it in a file. For what? For December? It's a problem right now. It's a problem in August. Deal with it now.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be strategic there. And for whatever reason, especially the bigger the company it is, we have all this red tape. Like, stop that. Who created that? And I'm not going to name the company. I almost did. I have a client that works for a big company and there's so much red tape. And every time he challenges it, they say, well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, who cares? Like, who's in charge now? You're in charge now. Like, and this is terrible, but this is how I talk to my clients, right? Like, grow a pair and make some decisions. Like, stand in your power. Stop hiding behind what used to be. Stop being afraid. Leaders need to be fearless. Get out there. Make the difficult decisions. Say, this isn't working. Confront it and change it. And then likewise, it's not all negative. You can see the positive and like praise that. Be a champion of your people. That's where the 6th element of the E6 leadership framework comes in. Encourage. Everyone needs encouragement. Like, we are starved for it.
Oh, yeah.
We're starved for it. And yet, how often, like if you think about that toxic work environment you were in, if you think about that, how often did you feel empowered and encouraged?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think now, and you might agree with me, in these days of remote work and COVID, and I don't think any of us are going back to the office anytime soon. that encouragement is even more important because people are feeling isolated. I mean, the
Right.
next pandemic is not COVID. It's depression, right? It's
Yeah.
anxiety. It's imposter syndrome. It's all that because people don't have that same interaction. I know for myself, for my team, I touch base with them on a daily basis, and that's not just a phone call. We get on a video call. I want to see them. I want to look them in the eye, and I want to encourage them through everything. I had one of my lead developer just bought a house. So when she, I text her during the closing, text her when they were moving, and then we just had a call. Literally, just had a call yesterday. Her first call in her new home. I had her walk around with the computer, and that she was on, and I had her give us all a house tour. Because I wanted her to feel proud of it. I wanted her to feel excited, and that we were sharing that excitement with her. And I think that's important, especially in these times of COVID, right?
Right. It fosters connection. And it's interesting because there's all this talk about Zoom fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. If you're not seeing them, you're not going to pick up on those subtle cues.
Right.
Right. You can tell when you see someone, when they show up on camera, you can tell if something's wrong.
Yep.
And you can't always hear that in their voice.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I understand Zoom fatigue. Believe me, I understand it. But it's important, and I call it Zoom fatigue. It could be Teams, it could be StreamYard,
Right. No, I get it. Yeah.
whatever, but you know what I mean.
But you get Zoom fatigue because you do the same thing over and over and over again. Where the key is that it's just not going to be a meeting. Okay, we got to go through today. We got to do this, that, or the other thing. Snap it up a little bit. Put a different background on, right? Play a game, make it interesting. Ask about the painting behind you. How's that plant doing behind you? Whatever it is.
It's real, by the way. This is a real plant. I try my best to have real plants all over my house and take care of them. During COVID, actually, they got a little sad, and
I'll bet.
I will tell you, it's about environment. It's about the energy you're putting out, and they go along with your moods. So shifting back, I want to talk on 2 points real quick. What you're doing with your company is so important because it fosters community.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to feel like we are cared for, especially now. And we need to do it in a way that isn't all just business. And I think that's what's been lost. Being in the office, you have that old school water cooler talk, right? You might grab lunch. You might see them in the lounge. You'll see them on your way to the restroom. And then, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's important to do things differently when you are all at home. And then the other thing I wanted to get back to is what is corporate high performance coaching? Billions put Windy Roads on the map, right? And I don't know if you've seen Billions. I had not. And then during the pandemic last fall, everyone kept comparing me to this character. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. So
I don't either. Sorry.
Started watching. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do not. Sorry. I don't.
You're going to have to look her up.
I'm going to look it up.
Windy Rhodes is Dr. Windy Rhodes. So she's a psychologist. I am not. But what she does is she gets the best out of this corporation, out of this hedge fund group, right? This equity firm. So it's interesting because that's exactly what I do when I work with corporate. I work with individuals and the group to make sure they're thriving as their best selves. And when they do, their company thrives. And so, for people that are listening and know who that is, there's a whole different, darker side of Windy Roads too. And that's not what I'm talking about. But, it is something that show put on the map, that companies are now gaining this awareness that people need support. It's why some companies have chief people officers now.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a thing. That wasn't a thing a decade ago. It's becoming important because companies are recognizing that they not only need to focus on the bottom line of their financial ROI, right? They have to invest in their people.
Right.
And
so that's the way to put it, investing in their people.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of stuff that just pays back dividends.
Absolutely. and loyalty and the ROI on keeping the same team, right? And not having to retrain and retrain and retrain and build relationships and trust. Like the companies that truly invest, they keep their employees.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not connected to Julie, if you're not following her, and if you're not engaging with her, you are truly missing out, because this engaging person that you just saw here for the last half hour, almost 40 minutes, she is that way every single day. I'm telling you guys. I've been following her and connected with her now for quite a few years, which is awesome. So I've seen her transition and change and just be this amazing individual. So connect, follow, engage with her, because I truly believe, Julie, that you are one connection that can change a corporation, can change a life, and people need to be engaged with you. Thank you so much for being on Coffee with Bob. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. This was lots of fun, and you gave me an opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. I really appreciate it. It's been fun. We actually connected, for people who are watching, we actually connected in this small group of, like, when I was brand new to LinkedIn. We were on this, like, how to do LinkedIn with Monty.
Right. Yeah. Monty Clark.
Shout out to Monty. And it's funny because I had no idea. It was the beginning of the pandemic. I was brand new to daily posting and daily content creation, and I learned a lot and made a connection with you. So thank you.
I'm very blessed. Thank you so much.
It's been awesome to see you grow, and it's been awesome to grow as well and stay connected. So it's been fun, Bob. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And we definitely will do this again.
Okay. And thank you for everyone listening. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we got lots of people on Facebook and YouTube, so that'll be fun. And catch us on the replay. If you're just catching it now, catch the replay, because as she always does, Julie gave all kinds of gold. Thank you.